Hello, vinyl community. Mike from Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another vinyl record video and a collab video. This is Janis. Not many people know who she is because she's not a fellow VC member. She is, but she doesn't make videos. She likes to watch and support us all, and me and Billy Hurst are two of the first people, to my knowledge, that she ever watched. And this is the individual who sent me that very nice 30-pound VCLT package.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I was just so happy that I could share those with you. Our stories are very similar. You inherited your grandfather's collection. I inherited my dad's collection, and which he started collecting in 1956, and he didn't stop until he passed in 2010. So that's all he ever wanted. He wanted records and CDs, and so my collection is pretty large. I mean, I think at one time we had over 40,000 units of music.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite a bit, but I was just happy to share that with you.
And I'm more than appreciative of you, as you saw in the video. I made sure I opened it on video because I knew that that's something that you would have wanted. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I'm slowly making my way through because, as I told you before going out live, it takes a couple minutes to listen to one. There was probably about 100 records in there, I think, approximately.
I think there was 55, I believe. So I was
gonna say,
it felt heavier.
I was going to say it's somewhere between the 50 and 100 range somewhere. It was on the upper end in there, but either way, I was so excited, and well, I got a lot of stuff I enjoyed, as everybody saw in the video, and everybody was like, wow, that person's great. And I was like, well, what better way to show the world who she is than introduce her? Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I've just now kind of gotten back into vinyls, and I'm learning, and I appreciate all the videos. It's just so cool to see everybody back into vinyl. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s when vinyl was pretty big, and that's what we had. And then to see them kind of go away and to kind of come back and see the younger generation really into vinyls, I don't know, it just kind of warms my heart. And so I've been getting back into it and picking out some pieces, and just felt like we could share and have a good time.
I completely agree. And I thought it was only appropriate for a topic of this, based on the VCLT I received in our conversations, that we choose 5 of our favorite country records. Now, everybody knows a lot of my favorites. There's Tanya Tucker's TNT. There's Gene Watson's No One Will Ever Know. Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison. Those are the ones I always show. But I decided to do a little different and pull some things that I don't really talk about much. So.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to see.
Absolutely. Some of these artists have been talked about, but these specific albums, not so much.
Oh, awesome.
But you're the guest. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start, and this is in no particular order.
Yes.
But I'm from Oklahoma, and of course when you think of country music and you think of Oklahoma, you got to think of Reba McEntire.
Yep.
She is one of my favorites, and I believe this is one of, to me, again, my opinion, this is the album that really kickstart her career. She had a few radio hits before, but when you think of Reba, I think you think of How Blue and Somebody Should Leave. And so I really feel like this really kind of like got her playing with all the big acts. And of course, like I say, I really love Reba. She's one of my favorites. And then, I think she had such a range. So she went from a traditional country with that album to more of a pop sounding album. And Little Rock is one on this. And oh gosh, I should have brought my glasses. Not Somebody Should Leave, but Whoever's in New England, which was a monster hit for her. But this is a really, really good album as well.
The record is not fully in frame. You're able to put it a little bit.
Is that better? Okay.
There you go.
All right, there we go. So yeah, Reba McEntire. And then I feel like this is one of her better albums here. It has fancy And that was a huge hit for her. I love the picture, I love the artwork, and the quality of the sound is just phenomenal. I mean, I remember I had this on cassette, and I used to have it in my car, and man, I would be just driving to work, and I'd have this on like high volume. It was such a, I was just in love with that song. Anyway, so she's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one of my favorite albums, country albums that I haven't spoke of yet, would be one by Mr. David Allan Coe. And this
Oh,
is his studio album, Rides Again.
yeah, yeah.
And of course, we know that this was one of the two that you sent my way as greatest hits,
Mm-hmm.
along with the album Darling, Darling, both of which I actually listened to about 3 nights ago. Fantastic albums. Darling, Darling, I actually knew a few hits from, which I didn't know I knew until I listened to them. But
Wow.
um, David Allan Coe. So going into this album, I only knew this song "Willie Waylon and Me," and that's arguably one of David Allan Coe's biggest hits. And but then I got that greatest hits, and I realized, oh, lately I've been thinking too much. Lately is also a hit, which I never knew. Great song, I know the album, love it, but I didn't know it was a hit. And what's cool about this album is that all the songs kind of end up being a medley of each other and even go into each other, and I really like that because Willie Waylon and Me actually starts and ends the A side because there's the regular version and then a reprise version. It's fantastic. And I remember when I first heard this album, because this is one of my grandfather's records, he came to me or I came to him. It was one day I had just come over randomly to his house. He was laying out on his chair outside, and we were talking about music and all that. And so this was before I knew much about, or as much as I know about country music now. So I was like, "We're talking about the Burritos and Roger McGuinn. Is this like, what is this?" I then learned that he was talking about the Flying Burrito Brothers, which I knew who the Flying Burritos Brothers were. I just didn't know they were called the Burritos. And
Mm-hmm.
then Roger McGuinn, I later learned would be a member of the Byrds, or was a member of the Byrds, thanks to my grandfather. So that was a cute little or fun little story that I remember with this album. And If That Ain't Country is a fantastic tune on here, too.
Mm-hmm.
If that ain't country, I'll kiss your ass.
Yeah, he was pretty salty, wasn't he? Did
uh,
you ever see him? Have you ever seen a video of him? He was pretty out there for the time.
oh, I can only imagine. I haven't seen him. And I mean, just some of the lyrical content of If That Ain't Country, or certain words he uses on that song alone is kind of out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, he
For
would.
those who know the song know what I'm talking about. For those who don't, listen to it and you'll learn right away
Yeah,
when the word comes. But
yeah, he has quite a past too. But I like "You Only Call Me Mother," or what's his biggest hit that he had? It escapes me right now, but
you told me that his biggest hit on your note that you left on this album was "You Never Even Called Me by My Name."
that's it. That's it. That was one of his biggest hits, and he was kind of that outlaw country before it was cool to be outlaw country.
Yeah, because David Allan Coe started in the early 70s, and then people like William Whalen, I mean, Whalen started in the 60s, but he wasn't really doing he had things
Mhm.
like Nashville Rebel soundtrack and a couple other things, but it wasn't really until
Yeah.
um, around the Ramblin' Man that he really started making it out there, or his album Old Whalen with like Lukenbach, Texas, and all that. And then,
Hmm.
of course, Willie Nelson has been around since the 50s, but it really wasn't until Red Haired Stranger that he started really making it out there, unless you count things like Hello Wall that he wrote for Fair and Young and all that.
Hmm. Yeah. Willie's another one that he's pretty awesome too. Okay.
And
You were
maybe,
talking about Tanya Tucker.
oh yeah, there we go. Can we take it out of the sleeve by chance?
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a glare.
Okay. I can do that. Okay. Here we go. So you were talking about Tanya Tucker, TNT. I remember when first time I heard Delta Dawn, oh my goodness, I was probably 10, 12 years old. And I was so in love with her voice and the fact that we were close in age. And I don't know, it was just an awesome song. And I remember, of course, going record shopping with my dad was, kind of cool. This is something he did every week. And so I remember it was he and my brother, and we were at this little store called Woolco, which is kind of like a Walmart before Walmart got really big and popular. And I asked Dad, would he buy this for me? And at the time it was $10. And he looked at me and was like, yeah, just throw it in there. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was so cool. I mean, he was really, I mean, if you wanted music, man, he was all over it. He thought that was cool. But I remember taking this record home and just playing and playing. I played the heck out of it. And it was such good, Delta Dawn, Jamestown Ferry. She did Smell the Flowers. And every time I spin this, it just takes me back to, being with him and getting to share that story. And I don't know, it was just fun. This is one of my favorite albums as well. So.
Is that like your first album you ever owned?
No, actually, my first album was the Monkees.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, we lived in Japan. My dad was military. So, he'd take you to the BX, and the first like real music album was the Monkees. And I thought, oh, they were way cool, more cool than the Beatles. I was 5. So, anyway, it was really fun. It was really fun. So, yeah.
Well, here we come.
Yes, I love that. It gets me all excited. I love to hear that song to this day.
Oh, me too. Mm-hmm. And Delta Dawn is a powerful song, even without those memories attached. So I can only imagine with all that extras.
Yeah, I loved all of her. Up to TNT, and then she kind of didn't record and didn't have too many hits in the early '80s that I recall. But then mid '80s, she came back and had some great songs. So
yeah, there was like the album "Ladies Love Me," which isn't my favorite by her, but it's not a bad album. I have it from my grandfather's collection. There was another one with her like in a pajama type outfit on it with a pink album cover. I can't remember the name of that one. That one came out in the early '80s, I think. But
yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, Should I Die? Is it Should I something? Is that I think
something like that?
But she was pretty cool. And then she had that whole thing with Glenn Campbell, and I think she kind of fell out a little bit. But then she came back, and she had some great songs in the '80s too.
Yeah. But she definitely had the best, I think, in the mid to late 70s, I think, was her heyday, even though Delta Dawn, and that came out in like 72, 73. That's just fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. And then to come back and to win the Grammy for the best country album last year, think about it. Wow.
That album is fantastic.
Yeah.
I did not know what to thought, but she re-recorded, at least I have the Target exclusive release of it, so it has like some bonus tracks. So it has a re-recorded version of Delta Dawn all these years later.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, she's still got it. She's still that entertainer. She still got it, even though I saw some clips where she was kind of insecure about wanting to record again. I was like, no, girl, you get out there and you do that. It's a great album too.
She doesn't look as nice as she used to, but she's still got that talent.
Oh, I don't know, man. Well, none of us look the same as we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So
true. I guess none of us do.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the next artist I'm going to pull out. Now, this artist I've talked about before, but I haven't talked about this album. This is John Denver's Poems, Prayers, and Promises.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
After the Greatest Hits album, his first Greatest Hits album, this was my next introduction. Because at the time, I was obsessed with the song Take Me Home Country Roads. This was middle school we're talking here. And so I asked for this for my birthday or for Christmas one year on CD, and I got it from my grandmother and grandfather. And I loved it. I mean, of course, I knew Poems, Prayers, and Promises and Sunshine on My Shoulder as well, because those were also big hits, but really I didn't know much of anything. And it was funny because this was before I really got into like Paul McCartney and the Beatles and all that other stuff. I mean, I knew the Beatles and all, but I didn't know them like I do. So I actually heard this version of Junk before Paul McCartney's original version.
Oh, yeah.
So I heard the Paul McCartney version. I was like, first of all, I'm liking this better. I love his version, but I'm liking that one better. And he did the original, and I didn't know that. Same thing happened with Mother Nature's Son. I didn't realize that was a song from the White Album until I heard the White Album for the first time, because I heard his album Rocky Mountain High before I heard that. So, but both versions of that song I think are equal. Junk, Paul does a lot better. And then Let It Be. He does a beautiful version of Let It Be on this album too. Poems, Prayers, and Promises is the kind of song that you just have to be like with your family sitting around a campfire or something to listen to. It gives you that kind of vibe where Christmas morning, you're all around the fire and the Christmas tree, just opening gifts together. That's the kind of like feeling that you get with the song Poems, Prayers, and Promises. It's just fantastic. Um, there's a song on here called Gospel Changes. For even those who aren't of religious nature, I feel like can appreciate that song, if for nothing else, the beauty of it because of what it's saying. It's just fantastic. I mean, Take Me Home, Country Roads. I mean, everybody knows that. That's a song that I've been covering and performing since I was in 8th grade.
Cool.
I love that. Sunshine on My Shoulders was a big hit. Oh, he did another cover on this album of Fire and Rain by James Taylor. So, John Denver did a lot of covers, especially on his earlier albums, but he does them very well. And he's one of those artists that died a little over a month after my birth. And I feel like even though he did a whole lot, I feel like he had a lot more in him. Had the same tragic ending as Buddy Holiday.
Buddy Holly, yeah.
Buddy Holly. I combined freaking Buddy Guy and Buddy Holiday.
Hey, you were close. We're giving you credit.
Yeah. I think Patsy Cline ended up passing in a plane crash too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but we have great music like this, and this is, if I had to rank like the top 100 country albums, this would definitely be in it, along with Back Home Again.
Yeah, and he was one of those people that he made the transition from like a folk music to country music, and if I remember correctly, he wasn't exactly welcomed in the country music family because everybody thought he was pop. But now, and I guess you just need a little time to kind of let things marinate with people. But Take Me Home, Country Roads has been covered by Brad Paisley in a completely different way, but it's just one of those songs I think that everybody can relate to. I always feel like it kind of takes you back to where you came from, and I don't know, it's kind of just like going home again, regardless if you're from West Virginia or you're from Eastern Kentucky or, Northeast Oklahoma. It just makes you want to get in and look at your roots, I guess. So.
Right. And I actually believe, I don't know which year or what song or what album, but I believe you're right in regards to him not being welcomed in the country scene. I believe Charlie Rich was giving out the
yes, that was right. Yeah.
And he wasn't allowing John Denver to get it. I think there was some sort of problem for a split second there about that. I'm not.
Tear up the on the ACMs or the CMAs. He tore up the sheet, the little envelope or something. Yeah, he wasn't very very kind to him. So.
No, I mean, he's a great musician, but I feel like he's not. I mean, he doesn't. He seems like if you mess with him, you're in for a treat.
Oh, Charlie Rich.
Yeah.
Charlie Rich. Yeah.
No one knows what goes on behind closed doors, after all.
Hey, that's true. That is so true. Speaking of people who probably was not welcomed into the country music community, another favorite.
Oh, that's a fantastic album.
Oh, my goodness. The quality of her voice, that softness. I mean, she could just do everything. And but I remember buying this record again with Dad. It was just one of those things. Dad, can I have Olivia Newton-John? Yeah, throw it in there. I didn't have to use my allowance. I could use his money. But yeah, I believe it was Roy Acuff who actually said Oliver Newton-John. He had no idea who she was when she won Female Vocalist in, I think it was 1974. But to me, nowadays you would consider this country. This was more of a pop, but I think it could cross over. I always loved it. And let me see, Angel of the Morning, Bank of the Ohio, she covered Take Me Home, Country Roads on this album. Let Me Be There. I mean, just classic standards. And to me, Olivia Newton-John can do no wrong.
No, and it's actually very interesting because everybody, very similar to Bonnie Tyler, everybody associates Olivia Newton-John with like things like Grease or Footloose and pop music. But both those artists had country careers before that.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a fantastic album. That was the one Olivia Newton-John album my grandfather had in his collection. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, she's covering everybody on this. I guess I could take it out. But Bob Dylan, If Not For You, John Denver, Take Me Home Country Roads.
He had one big hit off that, and I can't remember the name of it offhand.
Let Me Be There.
That was it? Okay.
Let Me Be There, yeah. But awesome record, just an awesome record.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. All right, I'm gonna pull out. I pulled out 2 CDs for this because they're modern ones, and they're not available on vinyl record. The one I would really like to see on vinyl record one day. The other one, hit or miss for me. But this one I'd really like to see on vinyl record one day, and it's George Strait's "It Just Comes Natural."
Yeah.
This is one of the introductory albums for me into country music when I started venturing out into music on my own. And this was a couple years old at this point, because this came out in 2006? Yeah, this came out in 2006. It was around 2008 that I started checking out music on my own. But really, there's not a single bad song on this album. But the hits, I mean, this is probably one of his most successful album next to Straight from the Heart when it comes to hit-wise, probably. Because it has Give It Away, She Just Told Me So, That's My Kind of Woman, Wrapped, Just Comes Natural. What else is on here? He Must Really Hurt You Bad. How About Them Cowgirls, Come On Joe. Every single one of those is a radio hit, and that's about half the album, if not a little more. George Strait can really do no wrong, and I just I can't believe that it took until his most recent album, Honky Tonk Time Machine, to finally get a duet with Willie Nelson. I don't know if you got to hear that album, but that song was kind of funny.
Yeah. Did you know, I should have wrote this on the note, on the Does Fort Worth, Dallas Cross Your Mind, that George Strait that I sing, that was scheduled to be a duet with Reba McEntire.
Oh yeah, I think you told me that in email, but you didn't tell me, you didn't write that down in a note. Yeah.
Yeah, but George can do no wrong. No wrong. I remember the first time I saw him, or I not saw him, but I did see him in concert with Faith Hill. But the first time I heard his music, I was driving to work one morning, and it was Unwound. And I was like, who is this? I mean, I actually had to pull over and stop and go, oh my goodness, what a voice. And he's just adorable. You know, the older he gets, the more adorable he becomes, I think. But yeah, George can do no wrong.
And he's one of those artists, just like Willie Nelson or Tanya Tucker, like they're still doing just as good, sounding just as good as they did back in the day.
Yeah, timeless, yeah.
What tour did you see George on?
Oh, he was with Faith Hill, so that would have been maybe 94, 95. Faith Hill was his opening act, but
so maybe somewhere around the Easy Come, Easy Go album, maybe.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the tour, but I just remember I've seen him a couple times. You know, he's not a real fancy, you know, he's not that kind of entertainer like a Garth Brooks or, you know, those kind of entertainers. But, you know, he'd get out there and just sing. And, I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit. So he's, you know, it's a good show.
Yeah, he's one of those artists I really want to see live one day.
Yeah.
Him and Willie Nelson.
Okay. I'm like you. There's a lot of country that I wish would come out on vinyl. And one of them is, I wish somebody would make some Faith Hill records on vinyl. Oh, that would just make my day, because she's one of my favorites too. But, well, da-da-da-da-da.
There we go.
Oh, my goodness. I think this is his best record to date.
Okay. Oh, to date, okay.
To date. I mean, Somewhere in My Car, Good Thing, Red Camaro. Oh, my goodness, it just sounds so good. And he's so talented, and he could do so, I mean, he's a good entertainer, musician, singer, writer. He's just, I don't know. Yeah, he's one of those people, the first time I heard him and saw him on video, I was like, who is that? You know? And that doesn't happen for me very often. I'm kind of like, oh, okay. But when somebody really like, oh, who is that? I have a feeling they could be big. But anyway, he is one of my true favorites.
Yeah, and he's been around for a while. He started in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
That's an album I have not heard in its entirety. I know the hits off that album. I can't name them offhand, but I've heard the hits from that. And Keith Urban is kind of one of those people once like the 2012 Ford kind of era happened with that whole bro country kind of thing. I kind of tapped out of the country a little bit because it's kind of, some of it's not bad, but a lot of it is just, quite frankly, a lot of people pretending like they know that they've been on a farm, kind of being a little bit of a poser kind of way. It's just like, oh, we have a cowboy hat on and we drink beer. That's what
Kind
a
of
lot
like
of
the image. They subscribe to the image that
yeah.
what works, what sells records, or what record companies think sell records.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's some of these more modern artists, even the legacy acts, that truly are very good and talented, but a lot of it I just can't stand. I was surprised when I found Maren Morris. I love her stuff.
Oh yeah, I just got her album recently, her first album, or I guess her second album, not Girl, but the one before that. And her sound, and I saw her, she opened up for Keith one year in Kansas City in 2017. And her sound and her delivery, and I also saw her one time sing Delta Dawn on a tribute show, and oh my goodness, she was pretty good with that too. So
wow. Yeah, just some of the country just ain't the same no more.
Yeah, well, it goes through these ebbs and flows, and all of that. I think my next record will probably, Travis Tritt. This is a great sounding record. The whiskey ain't working anymore. It's all about the change. Bible Belt is some of the songs on this, but to me, Travis was that kind of in between a hat act from the early 90s and a country rocker. And he just had that personality and entertainer quality about him. And what a voice. Even today, he still sounds as good as he did in 92, 93. But yeah, this is another favorite of mine.
That looks like it's an original version from the 90s.
It is. This is my mission, since I have a lot of the early, 70s and 80s country. And at the time where, they were not producing vinyl and everybody was going to CD, I still have a few, but I'm trying to collect all the 90s country, early 90s country on vinyl that I can. And this is one of them. So good old Travis.
Yeah, Travis, Alan Jackson, and Clint Black are some of those early country acts that I would love to be able to find one day on record. Some of them, George of the late 80s, early 90s too. Those are not easy to find, all those.
No, I think I'm good for George up until about 94. But yeah, these, like, I got 2 Alan Jacksons and a couple of Garth records. I think BMG or RCA Club issued a version, and these are the club versions, and this is basically all that's out there that I have found. So
yeah, I'm still working on it.
I know it's kind of hard. They're a little pricey, but I was like, okay, that's my mission.
Yeah, and Travis Tritt is fantastic. He's one who I saw in concert with my family and my grandparents. He wasn't even with his band. It was just him and the guitar on stage.
Ooh, yeah.
It was fantastic. And that was, I knew like hits like She's a Quarter, Call Somebody Who Cares, and I knew
yeah, those were good.
I knew that. I knew Trouble. I knew It's a Great Day to Be Alive, but really that was it. So that concert kind of widened my horizons with him. And then when my grandfather passed, I got his CD collection, which had a lot of the 90s Travis Tritt and a couple of early 2000s ones. Lord Have Mercy on the Working Man, I discovered through his CDs. Man, that's a good tune. And yeah, all great stuff.
Mm-hmm. He didn't do a bad song at all. So
I have not heard a bad album by Travis Tritt.
Nope, it's all good.
All right, well, you've seen my videos long enough to know that it's hard for me to not talk country music without mentioning this guy. Can you guess who that is?
Let me see. Is it Gene Watson?
No, even though that's a very good guess.
All right. Yeah, let's see.
Johnny Cash.
Oh, yeah.
So this is one that I haven't talked about really yet. I talked about it when I got it, but that was it. The big hit off this album, well, first of all, this is his album Songs of Our Soil. This is 5960, one of his very first couple albums on Columbia when he switched over from Sun. And the big hit off this album was 5 Feet High and Rising, although Hank and Joe and Me did show up on some comp albums later, but was not as big of a hit unless you were someone like me in the Johnny Cash community. But this entire album is fantastic. Some of these early Johnny Cash albums are pretty much flawless.
Mm-hmm.
I could be biased, of course, but I do love me some Johnny Cash. And I was really excited to find this because this was on the 6i label, which really excited me. And it's a stereo press, but still on the 6i, and it was cool.
Yeah, Johnny, oh my gosh, I can say so much about him, but yeah.
Yeah, this album, the song Drink to Me, a rose, a carnation, a lily, and an orchid make such a beautiful bouquet. It's too early for me to be singing still, and I'm not warmed up, but yeah.
I'm not even going to try.
But it's actually interesting. There's a song on here called The Great Speckled Bird, which I did not realize was like a country standard, because on the end of that David Allan Coe album, Rides Again, on the If It Ain't Country, on the outro, he's like just doing la, 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 like doing a little bit of a melodic la kind of thing. And then he goes into a little bit of, he calls it the gray speckled bird, I think, instead of the great speckled bird. But I didn't realize that was a thing until I got this album. I thought that he just added some random thing to the end of his song. There's a song here called Clementine, which is like, oh, my darling Clementine, that we all know from our childhood, which is fun. The Caretaker is a fantastic tune, but it's a sad tune. Johnny Cash knows how to tell a story. The caretaker is pretty much someone who works in a graveyard, and he's going through working at the graveyard, and he's thinking, yeah, he has nobody, so who's going to be his caretaker after he's gone? It's a sad song, but Johnny Cash tells the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he's great at it. That's one of the things I love about Johnny Cash. Is also he's good at telling a story and telling it as it is. And then there's a fun song called My Grandfather's Clock, too. This is just a great album. And I think this, if I'm not mistaken, this was his third album on Columbia, I think. The third or fourth, because he had The Fabulous Johnny Cash, Hymns by Johnny Cash, and I think it was either this or Sound of Johnny Cash next. I can't remember which, but.
Yeah, I like his early stuff. Of course, Walk the Line and Live at Folsom Prison and, the hymns, Songs of Life. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but the early stuff where that voice is so rich and deep, and his personality just kind of comes out in his story, that he had. Very compelling. I remember as a kid, my dad could pick a little guitar and his brother could sing, and they lived next door. So there was a lot of backyard picking and singing, and they sang a lot of Johnny Cash and a lot of those older songs. And that's kind of how I learned to really have a love for Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Johnny Cash. He is one of my favorite musicians of all time, after all. But he didn't put out a bad tune. Some of them are better than others, of course. But even throughout his time with American Recordings, yeah, his voice changed, but he still had it.
Right.
Even the stuff that's being released, I think in 2014, American 6 came out somewhere in the early 2000s. It might have been 2012, 2011, because Out Among the Stars was 2014, I think, which was, I think, American Recordings Sessions, but just a different title, I think. Kind of like American 2 with Unchained. But yeah, he still had it. I'm sure there's so much more. Even they released like an official, like those bootleg albums by him. It's just great.
Yeah, it's just don't if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
That though, yes. And I've been learning some Johnny Cash on guitar. I've always known how to play Ring of Fire, but I'm now going into Cocaine Blues, which is really fun to play. the Wabash Cannonball, which wasn't Johnny Cash exclusive, but his version is one of my favorite versions, especially the one. He had two versions. He had the version that was on his album Happiness Is You. Then he had the version that he did with the Carter family on the Carter family's album, The Sunny Side of Life, or Keep on the Sunny Side, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great tune. And people have heard me say this before, but I'm a sucker for a train tune.
Yeah. I like with the Tennessee 2 and the Rock Island, the song Rock Island Road, or I think
Rock Island Line.
Yeah. Yeah, good old Johnny Cash. Can't go wrong. Yeah. Can I mention one more?
Oh, yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't. This was one of my dad's favorite. Like I said, my dad was in the military. We were in Japan, and I remember when this song came out, I guess my parents were so homesick, and any mention of Muskogee, which we lived about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from Muskogee, just brought it home. And I remember Dad playing and making my brother and I sing this song. So at 6 years old, I knew this song by heart. But this is a must in anybody's record collection. Okie from Muskogee.
I knew that was. I kind of thought that's where you were going with that.
Yes, and I don't. Merle Haggard is probably one of my favorite 60s, 70s singers, songwriters. They don't write songs like what he was writing at the time. If We Make It Till December and
Mama Tried,
I'm a Fugitive, all those songs. I mean, my brother and I could probably recite the lyrics to that backward. My dad would make us sing those songs. Anyway, but yeah, just Merle Haggard. He's just one of the greatest.
Oh, yeah, that's great. And I just listened to the album Ramblin' Fever last week. I think that's the one you gave me. I believe that's what it's called. Fantastic. I didn't know the album, but I loved it. I've never heard anything bad by Merle either.
Merle, good old Merle. He kind of had a little bit of a past as well and didn't really reveal the fact that he had been in San Quentin or been in prison because they thought he would just, that was going to ruin his image. But I think he kind of just embraced it, and I don't think it hurt him.
No.
Obviously not. Again, they just don't write songs like now, like they were writing back then. I mean, it's just poetry.
Yeah.
Pure. So.
Yeah, and I have one more to show here too, and this is probably the album that really got me deeper into music. Like, I mean, obviously the George Strait one, as I said, was one of the earlier ones, but I think this one shaped who I am today as a musician, because if it wasn't for a certain song in this album, which I'll get to in a moment, I might have never had vocal lessons or guitar lessons because I wanted to know how to play this song and sing this song. So we got Rodney Atkins' album, If You're Going Through Hell.
Yes.
Now, there's a song on here that his first big hit, because he had an album or two before this, but it was this album that really broke him through, and then he had the album It's America afterward, but he kind of trailed off after this album and that hit off that, unfortunately. But the song Watching You, I wanted to learn how to play that and sing that.
Yes, that is a good song.
So, and if you go on my YouTube channel, before I even knew how to play guitar and sing at the same time, you will hear my very first public music performance of me singing karaoke of this in 7th grade.
Oh, wow, you're very brave.
It's one of the first couple YouTube videos on my channel. It's up there somewhere. But yeah, this album is one of those few albums that I know just about every word to, which I cannot say about many albums. These Are My People was another big hit off this album. If You're Going Through Hell, of course. Cleaning This Gun and About the South. I just love this. I just remembered coming home from my vocal lessons and just playing this song, and I don't know why I specifically remember hearing the song Cleaning This Gun. Because this album came out in 2006, just happened to be the same year that the George Strait album came out. And I just remember being in my mom's '08 Impala. This is around the time I was finally able to start sitting in the front seat. And probably a couple years before. 7th grade is kind of a little old to be first getting into there. But I just remember, come on in, boy, sit on down and tell me about yourself. So you like my daughter, do you now? Well, I think she's something else. Oh, it's just killer. I did a
Oh my,
little bit.
you have such passion. I love it.
I did a little bit better on that one than the Johnny Cash tune. I think I'm warmed up a little bit more from that other one. It's just great. I mean, and if someone wants like a song that'll put you in the feels, Angel's Hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. And then there's, of course, fun songs out there like, and you've got a wasted whiskey. I'll change it out of my mind. Oh.
I think you're on your way.
Well, I hope so. I definitely love the music industry and all that. So
It's good. You have such a passion for whatever it is that you're talking about. I enjoy your videos, and I love your collabs with everybody, which is so fun. But I appreciate you letting me come on and talk a little music with you.
oh, absolutely. I was glad when you brought it up saying I think it'd be fun to do it. I was like, oh, absolutely. Everybody's going to want to meet the person who sent a 30-pound VCLT.
No, I do have your Willie Nelson record. I need to get that mailed off too. So,
I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm excited for that. Well, if you want to talk more after we're done recording, we can, but I think that will cut the video off here.
Okay, great. Well,
So,
thanks again for letting me come on your channel and talk a little music with you.
absolutely. It was a lot of fun. So if you guys want to know who Janis is, the magical Janis, well, here she is. So thank you guys for watching. Keep on spinning that wax, and I'll see you in the next Vinyl Record video.
Bye-bye.